Markom, I have a small doubt. Not Markom,
Markom.
sorry.
No.
Paul?
Yes.
Charan.
I'll just start saying things like noise.
Obviously,
And,
it's like I will
voice,
obviously
voice,
get
voice, voice,
confused. Yes. Do you like? Is your mic changed or something?
Oh, am I too loud?
No, not loud,
No.
but is it like the same mic?
It's the same microphone. What do I sound?
It sounds slightly lower pitched. I'm not too sure.
Oh, I might have
It's
had a couple
fine.
of wines last night, and I sound like a bit of
It's totally fine.
Okay.
Hey,
That'll
Kev.
do it.
Hey, Kev.
Hi, Kev.
Hello.
Hey guys.
I bet you that's where the recording's going to start. It's going to be kicking off. People are going to enter BlenderNest and like, oh yeah, Paul's hungover. So this should be
I may
fun.
have already started recording. I'm not going to say whether or not. So yeah. Welcome to
Oh, by the way, I really want to tell to like Kev.
Yeah.
Work in progress are amazing. I didn't tell anyone, but yeah, they're so amazing. I just want to say the next tutorial is gonna be.
I have no idea
bomb.
what you're making, Kev. He won't tell me. He says he wants it to be a surprise.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a
I'm not gonna
surprise.
spoil anyone.
Sharon is insanely persistent. So I said, here you, I said, but it was basically like he prompted me to do stuff that's above and beyond what I've been doing. So I said, here you go, check this out. He's like, oh yeah, that's gonna work. I was like, all right, cool.
Nice.
I got your blessing. It's all good. We're good.
Sweet. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
it's
to it now.
amazing. Yeah. When is it tomorrow? Or day after tomorrow, you're gonna release it.
I'm hoping today. If I can jump on it
Oh.
after this, then I'm hoping, because I was rendering another thing last night. I'm getting like insanely picky about it. So I'm starting to get like stupid
Yeah.
about it, where I'm like, I just keep pixel
Yeah.
effing it to death, and I'm like, yeah, at some point I just got to release it and be like, it's done and move on. Because
Yeah.
it's been like another 17 days since my last video, and my last video was a poll. So this is
That's when I was like, yeah, you can make something else.
this one's gonna be a little bit better than a poll. But that was a joke
it is.
anyway. But it's still like, you know,
Oh yeah, it'll be cool to see. I'm looking forward to it.
YouTube punished
Yes.
me. YouTube punished me for my joke, so I said, okay, well, next one should be.
I wish I can start off my Monday with your tutorial. Honestly, tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's actually. I mean, it's pretty much gonna be like a full course in like.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long it's gonna be yet. It's probably gonna round out to about a half hour, I think, but we'll see.
All right.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna. I have to do it. I have to do it like storytelling. There's no other way to do it. It's like I have to do it like, hey, I started out thinking I was gonna do this, and then it's gonna have to be like one of those story type videos, because there's no way I can do it as like a tutorial, because it's just like there's so much in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then make sure that copyrights are clear. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say like indicative of. That's what I'm gonna say, in the style of. But I have no
Yes.
idea what I'm going to title the video, and the title means everything for the YouTube clicky clickies. So
Oh yes.
exactly.
The clicky clickies.
Yeah.
Just throw photogrammetry in there, and I'm pretty sure you'll be great.
Yeah. 2 words:
Wow.
either photogrammetry or is dead. So anything,
Yeah.
anything before is dead seems to work pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And not just for Curtis either. It's like works across the board. Like I've seen like that is dead addendum. Like I don't even think Curtis meant. I don't even think you meant to do that. It was just like awesome that it just worked out for you.
Yeah.
But like I've seen that now, and like that is dead appendix seems to work on a lot of videos. People are like,
oh yeah.
What do you mean it's dead? I gotta click and see what that means. And it's like. And like 90% of the videos don't deliver. Curtis, your video totally delivers. It was so awesome. I was watching that going, I might have to get an iPhone 12 now.
Yeah, I've had mixed opinions. It's somewhere between 400 and 500,000 views now, which is weird.
Nice.
And like there's been every possible comment. So people calling out the clickbaiting. They're like, oh, this is so totally clickbait. People are like, wow, iPhone. Oh no, I hate iPhone. Wow, is this for Android as well? Oh no, I hate Android. And I'm just like, okay, I know. I'm gonna stop. I can't respond to any of these now. You just gotta let it happen.
And you know what? I think if engagement actually counted on videos, I don't think it does all that much. Like your video would probably be like in the 5 million range by now. But like I because it's like you start flame wars. Anytime you mention like iPhone, it's a flame war. Anytime you mention politics, it's a flame war. Anytime you mention like anything it turns into a war now. It's like anything that like somebody can take a stand on, it's like you're gonna have like but that makes engagement, right? So
Yeah.
but I don't think engagement really counts much on YouTube. I think it's all like that watch time and
it depends on the platform really.
It does,
because like there's no algorithm that I know of that can really properly distinguish like what's being said in the comments, like whether or not it's a good or a bad thing. And actually, I mentioned this in my next video, which may be coming out tomorrow, the making art from hate comments one. Because like,
it's coming.
Yeah, and I rendered
literally
13,000 frames today.
Wow.
God.
But yeah, I mentioned in the video like hate comments, putting aside like the intent that's in them, they're still pieces of data. So if the algorithm does consider engagement, hate comments can serve a beneficial purpose. Because like if you just learn to ignore them, they're just adding like a 1, you know, pretty much. So if the algorithm takes that into consideration, then getting hate comments improves your performance. So little things like that. But it really depends. Yeah, as you say, on YouTube, I think it's the other metrics that are more important. Watch time, click-through rates for recommended videos and stuff like that.
I did listen to a very interesting podcast, which its subject matter was, well, I'm not going down a controversial rabbit hole, but they interviewed people from Google, the people who would write the algorithms and their thinking behind it.
Yeah.
And then when, things like YouTube and Facebook seem to nurture certain types of, shall we say, points of view.
Yes.
They would change the algorithms because they didn't exactly want to be accountable, because they thought they were just a platform. They were just serving a service. They were just serving people, oh, look, this is how you can interact. This is the platform. And they thought likes was the metric. And then they saw that people were hacking likes,
Yeah.
So people with more likes would float to the top, but then you could sort of buy them or like more than once or whatever. So they changed the metric. And so they would just constantly analyze how things were floating to the top or what people were seeing. And then that sort of slowly evolved into, what attitudes people were discussing or expressing. They decided, look, how much of a stand, how much responsibility do we take for what people are sharing and how they're sharing it, which was very interesting. So, who knows if there's going to be an algorithm that looks at comments at some point and just goes, yeah, that's a bad one, that's a good one, based on a certain,
I wonder.
word.
Yeah. And even then, like, I mean, if humans have trouble with it, how can you distinguish sarcasm, like, for an algorithm?
Know.
That's true.
The sarcasm hashtag. It's the
yeah.
I mean, even now it's pretty simple to run sort of a sentimental analysis on a piece of text and determine, based on what words are involved and even sometimes the order that they're in.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Sentiment analysis right now.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
On the
at least in the go on.
I was gonna say on the YouTube Studio, you've probably seen like the comment auto responses. Have any of you guys seen that? Where like it gives you recommendations. Yeah,
I have seen that. Yeah,
they can usually tell. It's not the kind of language I would usually use because it's a bit too short, or like whoopee, like yay, I'm glad, whatever. It's like, okay,
I did see whoopee on
like
there.
that.
I think that's the first time I said that word in maybe 10 years. I don't use this, so don't recommend it to me.
There was one that was like boom exclamation mark, and I'm like, I have never said boom in my life.
Yeah, I used to say it in every video.
It's good.
Yeah.
When they say it's good, it's like, you bet. It's like, what? No.
Yeah.
I know.
But they're trying.
I'm pretty sure I've heard before that it's based on the most common responses as well, which does make a lot of sense to me because some of them I've never ever seen before. I've never seen one person say this specific comment, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like
about that one.
Yeah.
It's basically like channeling Ned Flanders from The Simpsons. And that's what he would say. I'm like, no, nobody speaks like this except for Ned.
I think there's someone at Google who's just trying to be the trendsetter, but just failing horribly. Just like, I'm going to make this a thing.
Yeah.
Boom,
exactly.
Boom. But let's see who uses it. It'll just be old people like me just going, oh, that's what all the kids are saying these days. Okay, I'm going to start saying boom in everything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hilarious.
It is interesting.
No.
Nice.
So but I do. I mean, not going down, the rabbit hole of what's going on in the world right now. But I think it's going to reflect. I think I think it's going to change a lot of like YouTube and a lot of this stuff. So we kind of got to, as creators, kind of got to be on the lookout for like how it's changing and what's happening. So it's nobody knows. Like, this is uncharted territory. But one movie that's worth watching if you guys haven't seen it is The Social Dilemma. I don't know if you guys have watched that on Netflix.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's
Not
so
yet,
worth
but
it.
we're
It's
living
totally
it.
worth it.
Yeah.
Watch it. It's so worth watching. It's so well done, I thought.
I think my takeaway was that from that was, hey, here he is.
Hello.
Hey, Michael.
Hey,
Hello.
Michael.
My takeaway from the social dilemma was, put your phone away for 72 hours.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the backbone of that movie for me was like, I used to, I had a part-time job in a pharmacy once, and so I had all these pamphlets of, the effects of quitting smoking or quitting drinking or that sort of stuff. And watching The Social Dilemma was, these are the effects on your brain of quitting phones or screens.
I know. And there is, because I mean we are addicted to this stuff, and some some more than others, but it's like it really is addictive, and it was made to be addictive.
Hands up, who has wiggled their mouse even though you weren't paying attention to any of your screens when they've gone off to standby? Like, something's wrong. Must have that blue light in my eyes once again.
Oh yeah. I tell my kids to do it now. I'm like, can you just go to my computer and wiggle the mouse?
Do you know, I've started doing the thing where, like, if I'm in a room with a phone that's about to, like, whose screen's about to turn off, where it starts going dim, like, I'll just reach over and tap it. Just be like, no, stay on.
I know.
God.
My only situation was this where I had to help my mother with some phone stuff, and she had put her face recognition as her pin, or the thing that unlocks your phone, and unfortunately the screen would go off like within 30 seconds. So as I was trying to figure something out, googling something, the phone would go off and I'd try to turn it on and it was looking for her face, and so I'd have to just run into wherever she was with, Mum, just look at your phone for a second. Thanks. Okay. And I was just backwards and forwards. I was like, this is just the most annoying.
Actually, that's a question. What are your computer sleep times, if you've got it active?
Never.
Mine's set to never now.
All right.
Simply because if Windows goes to standby, if monitors come on different sync times and audio settings go bananas. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just turn it off when I've finished and turn it on when I want to work.
That's what I do.
It's on 2 minutes for me if it's not plugged into power.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. If it's plugged into power, it's indefinitely on.
Yeah. I've got my desktop on about 2 hours, I think, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably out of the house if I haven't touched it for 2 hours. So, yeah.
When I'm working and I sit there, it's on never, and then I change it to I think an hour, or actually I think I change it to 20 minutes if I'm rendering, if I leave it rendering. But then in my head, I'm like, I got to keep it on to every now and then look over to see if the thing is finished, especially the new video I'm doing. It's been simulating and rendering and simulating and rendering, and I'm just I need to know when it's done so that I can go back on it and finish. It's
this makes me wonder. I want to make a script which actually give you an alarm or something, when the whole rendering process is done.
That'd be cool.
Updates you for every 100 frames if you're rendering with cycles.
Yeah.
You can gamify it. It's like a Fitbit for your renders.
Yeah.
So you keep looking at your iWatch or whatever it is that people track their steps on, and it just goes, you've rendered 100 frames.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
I think Marco shared a similar tool recently that just alerts you when your render is done, and you can even set cascading renders. So once you're finished, you can start up another in the chat. But I can't remember what it's called now. Too much stuff in there to go back.
Very helpful.
That would be nice.
That would be pretty cool. Every 100 frames, you get a random picture of a cat playing with a puppy.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah.
As an export, so you have to go back and take them all out.
Yeah, he said, there you go. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey,
Daniel. All right.
How have you been doing?
Oh, man.
I've been pretty busy. Very busy, actually.
So I've seen and heard.
It's been pretty crazy. How about you guys? How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad.
Good, man.
Yeah,
well.
Good.
Generally.
Yeah.
What's the progress?
Are you working with
So I've been working on the on Mr. Beast's play button. which is the craziest thing. Is like I've never been into like fab or any manufacturing or anything like that. This is like totally the first time I've ever jumped into it, and apparently like this is like it's a nightmare even for experienced people in this field, because there's like it's like super detailed, like very tight inner corners, very complex shapes. Like those ribbons in the design, they're going to be hand bent titanium,
right?
Which
Wow.
that's tough. And then this is also the first time I've ever operated a CNC mill, and the only CNC mill that we could get, that we could rent, the guy that owns it doesn't even know how to use a CNC mill. So I had to learn how to use it. And that's dangerous. I actually could have died the other day because of a machining accident where this big 1-inch diameter drill bit caught the corner of the aluminum and ejected it out of the front of the machine. It's this big 80-pound block of aluminum, just ejects it at high speed, folds the splash guard, just crashes through the room, almost hitting this electric wire going along the ground to power the machine. Except the coolant spilled everywhere, so if that had hit that would have been really bad. It also would have broken ribs had there not been a splash guard there.
Oof.
Damn.
Yes. I hurt my fingers though.
Damn. Do it for the
with
brand.
lathe machine. Yes.
Oh, I don't even want to touch a lathe.
Oh man,
it's really hard. Yeah.
We used those in metal shop in high school. It was awesome, but wow, man, if you slip on the lathe, you're done.
People died. Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean,
we had all sorts of safety guards at university in place when you were using the lathes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the number of stupid people who were young, obviously, that would leave the chuck in for fun.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because the sound it would make as it hit all the safety guards. But like if you go back just a few years where there wouldn't have been safety guards on there, it's less fun at that point.
Yeah, like when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't safety on anything.
So one of the people I work for, they used to work in fabrication, and they had witnessed some like really scary accidents. So they did a lot of forging and stuff. And one time there was this giant iron billet that they were forging, and it had to be super long. And then it slipped from the guy's. It somehow slipped and just like impaled a guy, and then immediately like froze up in his organs. Basically, it was pretty gross. And he obviously died like instantly, but it goes to show that you don't mess around with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
how many?
I think that's why we're in graphics. Like we can simulate all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the CNC machine. Again, it's very costly, like very very costly. So if it's a manual one, then again it's gonna be a pain. If it's automatic and everything, I mean, you have to program every single. Like you should know how to program. There are like software which basically does it for you if your model is completely proper, like with non-manifold geometry and everything properly. It should make sense for it to like cut it out. Like if there's no like proper things and it doesn't do it. So yeah, and also like the dimensions, and you have to choose a drill bit, and you have to like know which material needs which kind of drill bit, or else
and the
it'll break
speeds and the feeds.
Non-manifold geometry is my current enemy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a big one with 3D printing, isn't it?
Yeah. God,
It's
3D printing and CNC, very like one is adaptive, like additive, and another is like removing stuff.
Oh, I also have to learn how to use a water jet.
Oh,
wow,
that's actually interesting.
That's kind of fun.
We're cutting the details on the CNC, and then we're going to cut the outline of the parts on the water jet, basically.
Oh, that's nice.
Accidents aside, everything's going well though. I'm excited to see the results.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah. I got a one-way ticket to Arizona to meet with this guy that knows how to forge Damascus steel.
Yeah.
And we've just been grinding it out.
Wow.
Can you make me a sword while you're at it?
You probably can.
I won't explain why, but I just need a sword.
I need a sword.
Yeah, get a quote for it.
You should see some of the crazy stuff he makes. Instagram, like there's like a few people that he knows. It's not super common for people to use Damascus these days. Like I almost got scammed by a fab company locally.
Wow.
They were going to charge me, I think, $10,000 and it was going to take them like 7 weeks, 7 business weeks, and they weren't even going to make it all out of like good parts. Like they were going to fake the Damascus effect. They were going to make part of the body out of like foam that's supposed to be like a fake metal.
Yeah,
just really bizarre stuff.
Yikes.
Wow.
One of my subscribers is this guy who knows how to make Damascus steel by hand.
Oh, nice.
That's like the
That's
coolest
awesome.
thing about this entire like subscriber base and group and
Social
everything.
dilemma.
You get people that just don't. You get people that just know stuff that no one else knows, and you're like, how do you even know about that stuff? They just have like the craziest hobbies, and they come in and they volunteer, and they're like, hey, I know how to do that. You're like, what? Like, A, nobody knows what Damascus steel is anymore. B, you know how to forge it.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
this
it's
is awesome.
I know. It's like
it's the coolest
now
thing.
It's just almost like an expectation of the internet. Someone will have a kink about something. Like years ago, I had to find a very specific light bulb for a projector that had not been made since the 70s.
Oh wow.
And I went down this rabbit hole and found that there were people obsessed with light bulbs, like unnaturally so. Luckily, I managed to, through this website where, they would even share jokes about light bulbs.
Yeah.
So I found a local store that sold this very weird looking, it looked like a little spaceman light bulb. And so I thought, oh, I've probably sourced the only place in Australia that sells these. So I thought he had 2 in stock. I bought them both just in case, one blows.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah, you like buy up the whole lot. You're like, if the one goes, then I'll have 18 more. But after that, I might never find it again.
I will be the light bulb master. And yeah, you just end up joining a really weird cult of light bulb.
It's almost like when you own a classic car and there's only like 3 people who can fabricate the part you need should something break.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the people that are into the MGs or the any of the little British sports cars that you guys have. Like in America, it's so hard to find people that work on them. But there are dedicated, really dedicated people that work on those.
Oh,
Yeah. I had a customer who had an original E-Type before the Americans made the bumpers safe for pedestrians and stuff. So it was the classic chrome stuff. And he used to love showing me it every time I went round. It took me to the garage and I was like, wow. And he was telling me about like how the axles needed greasing. I was like, whoa, okay, that's going back a few years and stuff. But yeah, he was saying like he got it as a damaged car. It had been in an accident or something. And so he'd put it back up to brand new spec basically. But he was saying it's a passion project, and he was fortunate enough to have the money to just do it as a passion hobby and get other people to do the bits that he couldn't, which is the really expensive bits. So
yeah,
that's incredible.
Well, now we all know Daniel, so yeah,
your assembly video is going to be epic, man. It could be like a series.
Oh my goodness,
dude, you could totally do it. There's a channel out there. What are they called, man? They build stuff. They just built a hoverboard, or at least that's the video I saw.
Hacksmith, yeah.
Hacksmith, Hacksmith Industries.
I remember this one.
Yeah, you could totally become like the new Hacksmith. It'd be the funniest thing ever. It'd be awesome.
Are they the guys who did the lightsaber?
Yeah, they did a lightsaber.
Yeah.
They did a working hoverboard. I was like blown away. I was like, these guys are like, man, whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, they're
that
crazy.
lightsaber was crazy though. The amount of heat that thing was produced.
I know. Like,
it's
like you can melt eyeballs from a mile away.
They really need a plaque. I was going to say a sticker, but they need a plaque because it was steampunk that just sort of says, point this end away from face. I mean, it's just.
Oh, I know.
Just like looking down the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mark Rober? I think is the name of the channel. He makes.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I somehow YouTube this morning was like, do you want to watch a 12-minute video of people picking up mail that isn't theirs and getting glitter bombed and stink bombed by Mark Rober? And they got me because I watched it and it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he made a squirrel ninja sort of run for the
like an obstacle course, isn't
it?
Yeah, he's former JPL. He lives out here in Pasadena, and he just I think he's in Pasadena anyway. But he's down here, and he was an engineer I think at JPL for a long time, and then just
that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Discovered how to.
What happens when an engineer gets bored is exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
JPL, that's high class.
Yeah.
Good
There's
stuff.
someone else who actually like make world records, like shooting baseball for the longest distance. I don't know. Like he builds like a machine
Oh,
or
I know what
something
you're
like
talking
a.
about.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
forgot
of
which one.
cool.
When
also
you
made
said
a,
like your
like channels. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I mean when Daniel said like he's gonna build it, I was like I was imagining that person who's like literally going crazy to build like this baseball bat or something. Wow, that was
Yeah,
crazy.
that was a good video. They used like bullets inside of the bat to like launch the the ball further, and they broke like all the records in the video.
Whoa.
That's like the best. He got like some other person as well. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't remember the names, but yeah, I'll share the link soon. It's such a cool video. Like it's gonna be that kind of video for me, Daniel. If at all, if you're gonna make it. So like yeah.
Oh, I found it.
I just
Oh,
wanna
the guy's stuff made here.
Yo, Charan, how's your rock?
After the pet rock thing, like I got so many messages about my pet rock, and I'm taking really good care of it. But the thing I got this is like I'm actually working on the shaders, right? Like the brick shader. I actually got a brick which is right outside because it's wet.
So you have two pets, an indoor pet and an outdoor pet.
No, I was
hope
making
you're-
another one.
I just hope you're
like
feeding
little
it.
rock. I mean, I was streaming on Curtis server about like making this shader, like this translucent-ish stone material. And I actually did it, but it was cool. Like actually, like looking at real world reference to build up shaders,
Yeah, that's a
and,
skill.
And the bricks actually turned out really, really good. And Gleb Alexandro retweeted. He followed me back, and it was all so. And look at it, was like, and it crossed all the expectations of myself actually, because I actually saw how light reacts to that particular brick. It's like a proper PBR material. I'm gonna make a video, like a full breakdown, and give the file on Gumroad, so everyone can check that out. So
yeah, so far what you've
surface
put up
details and stuff.
in work in progress looks so good, and it's cool to see the progression. Between rounds.
All
of
I
feedback.
wanted like a year ago was I just want to make bricks like Simon Thomas, and it's almost close. I won't say it's like very close, but it's almost close. I'm really happy for that actually.
Yeah.
Simon Thomas.
Yeah, you've done really well.
He's like a god.
I mean, if you study the properties that make it up, and then how light reacts to it, and how render engines simulate that,
I'm not really sure if you guys remember this person, Cinecat Pro. He's like an old YouTuber who, like, 4 years ago, he used to make these Blender shaders related stuff, like Blender physical based shading tutorial, like concepts. I'll put that in the general chat.
Oh, cool.
And the full playlist.
I recognize the name.
I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, like he even Blender Guru mentioned in one of the video, like the photorealism one. He was like, okay, he took help from this particular guy to actually understand what's going on behind the roughness and stuff. And the whole playlist is about talking about shading theory, Fresnel, metallic, specular workflow, building shader, like the principal BSDF shader from scratch, and Uber shaders and proper color correction. That's the whole playlist.
Interesting.
And it's super good. I started watching it today.
Yeah.
It's whole for cycle. I mean, 5 years back, nothing changed much in cycles except the principal BSDF shader and more math nodes, and the whole thing is the same. So Luca would actually suggested me to watch this whole series recently because I've been talking to him about how to get actual good looking materials now, because he's like, after Simon Thomas, he's like the next person who I look up to. And it's actually like really going well. I'm actually understanding what's going on. To understand all these things, like I'm actually looking at substance designer tutorials to get more inspiration, because those are like proper PBR stuff, right?
Yep.
Like Substance Designer than Substance Painter.
Yeah.
But they also have this booklet which they talk about whole PBR workflow, like how PBR materials work and stuff, like a booklet, which is for free, obviously, for everyone. If you want to get the hard copy, you can get it as well. I should order it, but yeah, I'm reading the free version now, like the full version. Yeah, I can see the improvement like in my work as well. Like few months back, the previous bricks and the bricks which I made now had like massive difference. And I'm actually really happy for that. I'll share all the resources though, if at all, if you want to link it, Curtis.
Yeah, I need to remember. Hey, Arturo, I think we forgot to put a link in the last episode. I can't remember what it was for. But during the episode, we mentioned that you were going to put it in the comments, but I can't remember what it was. But it's okay. No one pointed it out, so
that's fine. No, but I'll go back and rewatch it and add it just so that we can be good about that.
I did notice though.
Yeah. You did?
People noticed as well. I can't remember what it was, but there was something that you both said, "Oh, we'll put that in the link."
Yeah. Oops.
And you didn't.
Well, guess what? If you're watching this and this hasn't been cut out, stuff like that happens. And guess what else? If you tag me and remind me, I'll be happy to add it. I'll go have a look now.
That happens when I'm writing a course and I say, "Oh, I've attached the texture to the lecture, so go and download it from the resources." And then someone will say, "I can't find it anywhere." Yeah, it's uploaded now. You should work.
Yeah.
Like, oops.
Yeah, I know.
Like forgetting to tick pack all textures in a blend file. I've done that a few times.
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
Why is my scene pink?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, Curtis, you say, "Okay, remind me to put this in the description of the podcast episode." Gotta love those captions.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
being able to
I forgot about
search them
captions.
Yeah.
They put it in writing.
Oh, it's the tree. The tree.
Oh, the geometry
it's
nodes
actually
tree.
Sent, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's already in the
That was amazing.
chat, Curtis. You missed it.
What?
I'm blaming Arturo for that.
Oh.
It's already here. Like, it's in the chat.
Yeah.
I'll add it now.
It's okay.
Oh, well. All right. What do we talk about next?
I had a topic. No, now we're going to be waiting for my topic. I should have just thought
I want to talk about, like,
What?
Ocean Shader of Ben, which is actually, looks amazing. So, Ben, do you want to talk about it? Like, can you explain how you actually got the process? Like,
Yeah, well, on the texture side, it's pretty simple. It's a noise shader that's going through a hue saturation node, so it keeps changing over time. I had to bake out the textures for speed, but to get the kind of wavy effect, I had to use a color ramp on a gradient, make it slide across the surface, make that repeat a ton of times, mix the noise and the gradients together. And then for the actual displacement, I had to use a special shader displacement method I created, where you have a ton of stacked image planes. I've talked about this on other episodes of the BlenderNest. But if you stack those planes, it's like a 3D printing effect, where you use 2D layers of a texture to create a 3D volume. And inside that, you can make anything you want. It's like Ray marching, except faster and easy, much faster and easy.
This is how you do your rock.
Combining the height map and that method, and scrolling textures and all that stuff, combining all that together, you get a very nice 3D wave effect. And today I'm working on making an omnidirectional version of it, so the waves, it looks like an actual ocean instead of just like a river.
Yeah.
So it's turning out very good. Yeah.
And the parallax effect, especially, that is like, I mean, obviously for ice materials and for water, parallax is really important, but it turned out really good.
You can use glass, like the glass BSDF, in order to see objects behind it, but for simplicity's sake, I used some parallax just so that I could throw it in a scene and not worry about what's beneath it, and it still looks like water.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like,
and sound very well also, which I'm happy about. Yeah.
All right, nice.
Thanks, Ben.
So, Rob, what have you been up to recently?
I haven't put a video up for like, I think 45 days or something now. I'm working on 3 or 4 really big projects, like
nice,
bigger than anything I've done before. But obviously that means I can't really work on anything else.
Yeah.
I've just had to kind of neglect the channel up till now. But I've been doing a bit more sculpting. That's for not the next video, but the video after. And then it's just like scaling up now, basically. Like I want every video to just be like a little bit bigger than the last one.
Yeah.
But I need to figure out a way to not make them take longer than the last one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, did I tell you that I watched all your, like, how to do this particular end product from start to finish? Like, I did like a streak of like 4 videos continuously. Like, okay, let me watch this, and I think it's worth the time. Like proper, nothing is lagging. It's everything just to pin to point. Yeah, and I don't know what you mean by increasing the time limit, but I'm pretty excited for the next one as well.
I've got some pretty cool stuff planned. I've been playing with Marvelous Designer today. I've only really used that once or twice before.
It's, nice. It's for cloth.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool program, but it's really frustrating as well. There's so many times where things have just went completely wrong, and it's like, I need to put the clothes back together again. because you kind of build it up piece by piece. You can't just, like, if it's a complex piece of clothing, you can't just like hit simulate and it all comes together.
Yeah.
Because things won't attach in the right order, so you have to do them like one at a time. And I don't know if I'm messing something up, but for whatever reason, it's just like it's going out of sync with the final animation when I'm playing the animation through. So I have to go back through again and like rebuild it all. But yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a good program.
So is it like basically being a digital tailor? You're putting the clothes together with the whatever they call them, like the templates, like half a shirt on one side and half a shirt on the other.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. A lot of the YouTube
sleeves,
the like marvelous designer YouTubers, I've noticed a lot of them are just like tailors and things like that.
Yeah,
and they're doing the same thing that artists did a long time ago. Like, okay, just switch over to digital, and you can design clothes in Marvelous Designer and then make the actual clothes, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
It's like, it's really, because it is that accurate. You can do things like piping down the side of jackets, and you can do basically anything. Anything you can do with real cloth, you can probably pull off in Marvelous. But this simulation as well is like so much better than Blender for the speed of the cloth.
Oh yeah.
And like just how not janky it is compared to like Blender clipping through. You know, you'll have like half a tit poking out or something like that. That doesn't really happen as often. And if it does, you can easily fix it. You can just grab the cloth during the simulation and like pull it back into place. So that's really cool.
I love how smooth it is, because when you can grab it in real time and just pull it around, it's perfectly real time. And like we were saying as well, because you got the 2D view where you like do your cutouts, and it literally is, you can just take that away and like make it in real life. It's so cool.
I've used Marvelous I think 3 times now, and the last project I used it on, I just got a pattern for a tailored suit, and I just built it off this pattern, which, I mean, that was the hard part, was the fact I don't understand how to read patterns. So like it's all well and good having a pattern there, but I didn't really know what I was looking at. But yeah, it works ridiculously well. It's a good program. It's expensive. It's like, I think $1,500.
Yep.
Or you have to pay for a perpetual. But it is worth it, and there's nothing really out there that can do that. Although I think Houdini's starting to get some pretty good updates for doing that sort of thing, like sewing and things like that. They look quite cool.
Vellum is phenomenal.
There's still not any competition from like a dedicated cloth software. So they can charge what they like.
Oh yeah. I've seen people do a very similar thing in Blender where they have a cloth simulation on 2 planes and they've attached things together with I think Blender's terminology is springs, so that the cloth comes together. But you don't know when someone's doing a recording, like we all do, whether that was the 15th attempt at doing it or whether it just works every time for them. So when I've tried it in the past, the clothes end up, as you say, going and exposing half the body or just clipping through parts or even itself.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's so much slower as well. I mean, it has got a lot faster with self-collision on, especially the I think it was the last update of Blender had a massive improvement to self-collision speed, but still it's so agonizingly slow. If it's a complex piece of cloth, it's just so slow to like play the animation through, especially if it's a long animation, like 300 400 frames. Even if it's the end of the animation where it's all going wrong, that takes so long just to run through. I mean, I think for Blender, I've been using a lot of physics stuff lately, and I think it's really lacking in that department. I hope that's something in simulations in general, but especially physics, I think really needs some work. I think it uses what's called it's Bullet, I think, isn't it? Blender uses
Bullet physics,
Bullet, and it's very old now. It's not the best. It's not the best, is it?
It is not actually, like, compared to other softwares. Obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
Mandaflow, like we had something else previously, right? Mandaflow is the next fluid simulation which we got. People stopped talking about it when VDBs came in. Like everyone started going for VDBs, like exporting, like doing simulation Houdini and like getting it to Blender. But that's something which, like, basically, speed is important. Like in the professional workflows, you can't like stick to one software, like, because which is fast at which.
Yes.
I was about to ask you, Rob, that how is the importing, like supporting two different, like, can you import the whole thing to Blender like easily, the whole simulation of clots?
Yeah.
If it's an animation,
you can import and export out in pretty much any format you want.
Oh, nice.
It works absolutely seamlessly from that point. It's a bit awkward, like most things, because Z by default is not up, and it's also backwards. So even once you correct which way Z is up, they still always face the wrong way, and the scale is always wrong. You have to readjust the scale. But apart from that, it's Alembic, so you can just import and export out with the animations, and it works really well.
Yeah, Alembic is solid. It's a great format. It's so easy to use, and Blender imports it. I've imported I think the latest I did was like a 10 gigabyte sim, and it just came in, and Blender actually handled it really well because it's just reading frame by frame.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's loading it all into RAM.
Really fast as well. The Alembic export is like surprisingly fast. I remember the first time I ever hit export and that loading bar came up. I was like, oh no, here we go. But actually, it was like
fast.
Done.
I used Alembic a few years back. I used the Cell Fracture add-on on something, and it was really cool, and it was for a game asset. And I was like, instead of trying to recreate this over in, I think it was Unity at the time, I just imported the Alembic file, and then it was just playing back. So when the player got to a certain point, all this destruction would happen free because it's just playing. There's no physics interactions or anything like that going on.
Yeah, you do kind of have to use other softwares though for anything ambitious done with physics. I think I have a little secret second channel that no one knows about yet, where I've been doing physics simulations and things, and it's been a nightmare. I've been working on
how is this happening?
Finally.
Yeah, go where the Markom's.
Boys.
Yes.
Boys.
Oh my god, that was perfectly timed. That was brilliant.
Yes.
Hey, Markom.
Hey, Markom.
Get your video on because we need proof here. The universe is splitting.
I gotta pull over. Okay.
We're crossing the streams here.
Yeah. Whoa, never happened before.
There he is.
Whoa.
They are two separate people. Here's proof.
Yeah.
We've had our discussions.
Yes. Yeah. I should start wearing glasses.
It worked for Clark Kent. Why not?
I know.
That's it.
It's an AI. I don't believe it yet. It's an
It's
AI.
pre-recorded. It's pre-recorded.
Yes.
So wait, I just want to Rob, you were you were saying the physics simulations. Are you doing it in Marvelous for the cloth stuff or everything?
No, I've been what I was saying. I've been working on this video for my second channel. It's like a domino run, but it's
nice.
I think 10,000 dominoes I'm up to now.
Wow!
Going through like a whole house. But every time that you rebake the simulation, it changes. So you can't just line it up so like, oh, this one domino falls off the counter and starts the next line of the simulation or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the next time you run the simulation, it falls in a different place.
Wow.
It shouldn't do that if it's got the same.
No,
it's the same data. It should work exactly the same every time. Or like halfway through when I started, like I was probably 20 hours in by this point. The beginning started to mess up again. I don't know why. I don't know why that happened. There's no reason why.
Are you baking all physics, or are you just baking the physics on that one object?
Baking all the physics and baking it per object does the exact same thing. Wow. Once you get a certain amount of things in objects in the scene or whatever, it just kind of, I think it's probably a floating point error when you have so many things
it might be.
It's like using averages or whatever instead of using precise amounts. But it's an absolute pain. You really can't use it like that. The way I've had to resort to doing it is to baking out parts at a time to keyframes, and just have like say 1,000 dominoes at a time working as keyframes. So then you can go, oh, right now, start again. We'll have that one keyframe start the next part of the animation.
So do you have all your lighting set up and all your materials all set up and all that?
No, not yet. I'm still just building out the scene. I haven't touched it for about 3 weeks, to be honest, that one. But it's just the sort of thing I'm talking about with physics. I think it's like, it's really lacking in a lot of ways, I think. But the problem is you either have to have someone write a physics engine for Blender from scratch, or you need to find something like Bullet that's open source. And who's making that? Like, who's making a full physics engine that's open source?
Yeah. Have you considered perhaps exporting the whole scene to something like Unreal or Unity, and then applying the physics in there and just seeing if it behaves itself?
I think that's for the these style videos. I think that's probably what I'm going to do in the future. I'm going to have to use like a game engine.
Yeah.
And do the final thing in a game engine, because Blender's just isn't up to scratch for that sort of stuff, and it's a shame because I like doing as much stuff as possible in Blender.
Oh yeah.
But it's why I started learning Houdini and stuff as well, because there's just some stuff that we can't do yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think
Houdini
and,
definitely.
Do you guys like suggest some tutorials or something? Because I'm going to start Houdini soon. Like I did watch some Rohan Dalvi's tutorials, but is there any like a full course which I can follow? So mostly for simulations, obviously, and then maybe VFX.
Yeah, visual effects and simulations are where it really rules. It's just the way it's written. It's a really good piece of software. But like for like basic like just jumping in and modeling, I would still jump into Blender and just build stuff in there. Like unless I had to do it procedurally, where the model is going to be iteratively changed. Then I'd just build it in Houdini. But like I'm so much faster, and plus you got sculpting and a whole bunch of cool stuff in Blender that it kind of exists in Houdini, but not to the same level. But then like the simulation stuff just takes the cake. I mean, Houdini just is so good with that.
By the way, did you know the new driver update that came in 2.91? Like you can copy paste just like Houdini. You can copy the driver thing, which can drive, and you can paste it somewhere else.
Really?
It works perfectly fine. Yeah, I thought I should mention this to you.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I've been so like
the property controls over there. Yeah, that's the one. You can drive.
So like copy parameter and paste relative references, that type thing.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. You can do that.
Ooh, that'd be nice. Because that was one thing that was really nice in Maya too. Maya, like you have the connection editor. You can call that up and connect any parameter to anything and just like do it. Houdini's even better because you can just copy from any parameter and paste anywhere else in the program, and it'll just take the path and it'll say affect this, and like you could have like a light affecting like a fluid sim, and like it's just it's insane, like the level of access that the data can have talking to each other. So like. Not having that in Blender right off the bat was like, oh man, how am I going to work around that? But you learn.
The only way I've managed to get around that personally, and until everything nodes, and which is something I'm really excited about, is that you'd copy you would use like the number of iterations in an array modifier to then drive the number of iterations on another array modifier, or the number of something else, or the number of rotations. So you ended up with this very convoluted nest, and you had to keep track of all of that.
Yep.
And that was the really irritating thing, because if you wanted to go in and change something, you're like, but which one of these is the source for all of these other controls? Sometimes I just got lost in my own creations because it wasn't really apparent.
Yeah.
You're looking for that global variable essentially, and you've hidden it and buried it in the code.
Yeah. This might make sense to a lot of you, but I've just recently started leaving notes in my just open up the text editor in Blender and I just leave a note in there, because if I don't come back to that file for like a week, it's gone. I just opened so many new things. It's like, oh, let me try this. So going back to like the 12th project before the current one is just tedious, but not any longer.
So I'm at work.
If you're not doing that,
I'm not sure like we'll get the node editor like or the whole driver things soon, but I'm sure like it'll be implemented for sure. Yeah. But then this copy parameter related references, like it's almost the same, but I like it.
Yeah, that's powerful.
So Markom, how are you feeling after your animation studio or game studio video? Are you really settled on an idea?
No, it sucks. It was really like 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just gonna have to do both.
Good.
Yeah, that works.
You should definitely incorporate both. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the moment, I'm gonna try and do a level for Pavlov VR by the end of the month.
All right.
Because they've got a search and destroy map competition.
Oh, nice.
And so I think first prize is like $5,000, and 3, 2, 1. So might as well throw my hat in the ring.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Totally.
I like $5,000.
Me too.
Yes.
Charan and I were talking about the difference in money, not last night, the night before. Far out.
Yeah.
Because I like here, rent was Paul would be completely different because you're in Sydney, but here it's like $450 a week, which is at the moment about $380 US a week for a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? That sounds like around where I live. That sounds, if I'm doing rough calculations in my head, but that's at least twice, if not 3 times, the amount of rent you'd be paying. So a 3-bed house where I am would probably be around 700 Great British pounds. I don't know about where you are. Probably.
Yeah, to be honest,
in Sydney.
That's like $3,000 American here in LA.
It's a lot, isn't it?
$3,500 a month for a 3-bedroom house here in LA.
That's disgusting.
It's stupid. Everybody's it's supply and demand. I'm like, all right, yeah, it's supply and demand until like the next major earthquake. Then let's see it's supply and demand.
Yeah, I was speaking to Charan before because we were talking about earnings and stuff, and he was like, well, I showed him like what I was earning, and like talking about what I think my kind of minimum level for sustainability is, and he was like, you know, if you're in India, you could probably look after 2 families with that. I was like,
yeah,
seriously thinking, okay, well, if I've got an internet connection, maybe I should move to India.
Even Markom was like, I was talking the same thing with Markom, like comparing like the expenses like in India and as well as US and Australia as well. Like, I was like, I can be rich if I'm earning that per month. I was like, I'm rich. I don't even have to think about anything. I can just do what I'm doing, sit in my room, sleep on the same place. Yeah, that's it. That's all I can do. That's nice.
Yeah, it gives you perspective, right? Like,
it's like, I
amazing.
mean, Markom was also talking about how I can even improve on all this stuff and really help me out a lot, like to figure out what I can do next and what all I can, like, prove that, okay, I can do this stuff and I'm not doing. You stupid, just do it then. I will do it. But honestly, like, you know, if I can make as much as you guys doing, if I grow my channel, and I don't think I have like I can simply like, you know, raise 2 families maybe, but no, whatever.
It's
like
awesome,
for the guys living in lower cost of living areas, this is amazing. This opportunity to float you. You can live. You can have awesome. For like people like me living in like Los Angeles or, you know, people in Boston or London, like, oh my god. I have to have a full-time job. Like, it's just I would have to go so fast and so aggressively, and then I can't get healthcare in this country without working for a company, you know, without paying a ton of money.
That's a thing that I forgot to mention in the last episode when we were talking about the benefits and the differences between being self-employed and working for people and working with teams and the like, which I thought about afterwards while listening back to some of it, and something that we definitely should just briefly touch on. Take into account that if you are considering being self-employed, things like healthcare, if you live in the United States, and other sort of benefits are things that you're going to have to take into consideration. And when you're making your sort of what's the word? Budget. So just a note out there, because I totally forgot to mention that, and it was a huge thing and a huge sort of influence into making that decision that I think would be irresponsible to give different impressions about to people who are considering this.
Another one would be things like, I don't know what you'd have in the States, whether it be called a pension or not.
Yeah.
But often in the UK, your employer will match what you're putting in to a certain amount of your pension as well. So obviously for them it's a tax write-off, which is great because they can benefit from it. But ultimately, if you're not in that position, you know, think about when you're older. I know for you young whippersnappers, that's...
Yep, think about your 401k, think about healthcare, think about all these things that we don't, you know, normally think about. If you're working for somebody, they're likely taking care of that. But if you're working for yourself, add that to the budget. So it's not all fun and games.
Yeah, and also importantly, talking about self-employed, my mom always gets this one thing. can you raise a family, like a full family, with what you're earning? You should think about that as well. If you have you have to raise the child, pay school fees and everything, and remember you have to earn pretty much a lot. Yeah.
And emergency funds, because ish will happen. And
just take 2020 for example.
Oh yes,
that's taken a load of people. It's just swept them off their feet, literally.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot. It's a lot to consider. But if you can set yourself up and make that kind of money, just grow it while you can. Do it.
Yeah.
Now
and save. Save. I know this was sparked by Kev saying the word healthcare. But honestly, I felt so responsible after the podcast, not having mentioned any of these things. Think about these things. And
also, if you want to do anything.
Yeah, we're not financial advisors. We're not all that stuff. We don't play one on the internet or on TV. Do your research. Do your homework. It can be worth it, but just think about these things.
I want to add, if we're giving financial advice as well, obviously talking about the differences between self-employed and employed, and it definitely varies by country. But in the UK, we have the basic state pension, we have national insurance which you can pay into, right? If you're self-employed, even if you're not hitting a threshold for tax, because clearly I haven't been making enough to pay tax for several years. I am now, I think. But you still have the option to optionally pay in for national insurance, and if you pay that for over 30 years, I think you're then entitled for the state pension, basic state pension.
Yeah.
So even if you're not making enough, in some cases, that you may still be able to pay in, it might be a good idea.
And it's not that much. If you
it's not.
It's something like £7 a week minimum. Don't quote me on that. As I say, not a financial advisor. But if you pay in, but if you don't pay in, and a lot of back in the day when wives stayed at home and didn't go out to work, that sort of thing, a load of them ended up basically getting screwed over by the government because they hadn't contributed to their national insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
So they didn't get any state pension, or they got a very minimal amount, which is I mean, it's
you can pay the difference as well before you retire, but it's usually not worth the amount that you have to pay. Isn't worth what you would get in extra money as well. Because you still get a pension, obviously, it's just a reduced amount. So if you haven't been paying voluntary contributions, like this happened to my auntie, it was you can pay however much it is for your entire life that you haven't been earning of $8,000 or whatever, and you get an extra $5 a month. And it's well, is that really worth putting out all that money at once and for the sake of a few pound?
You probably get more an interest in that at that point. One thing, of course, with working by yourself or as a company, I work mainly as a company rather than by myself. So mortgage companies and things like that all take that as you're self-employed, even if you're working for your own company. But tax, put it aside. Whatever it is in your country, for the UK, it's usually around 20 to 40%, depending on which bracket you enter, because we've got brackets over here. But if you don't put that aside and then your tax bill rolls around the next year, either you do the calculation yourself or you get an accountant to do it, and then you're like, I've got to find £500, or maybe it's £5,000. Suddenly there's this big bill, and HMRC or the IRS are two institutions you do not argue with, or whatever it's called in Australia.
ATO.
They're the sort of people that are quite happy if they've accidentally made an overpayment, it'll take them 12 weeks to sort it out for you. But if you've made a penny underpayment, they want it tomorrow on penalty of death. And
you get 30 days usually, I think, if you've underpaid or if you get audited and you haven't paid enough tax. I'm pretty sure I read the other day, because I just did my tax return.
Right.
Because I just did mine for the one I should have done in April. Because the deadline's the end of January, so I do it at the end of January.
It's funny. Just as you all started talking about the self-employment and everything, my fiance messaged me, say one of my children wants an app approving, and I was like, oh, okay then. But on there is tax summary and everything that we were discussing the other day. We need to pay this by the end of them.
Yeah.
God, I'm so.
They usually you get like a
See
year.
you later.
See you, Markom.
See you later.
Markom.
You, Markom.
Have fun at work.
I do want to say quickly, I'm really thankful for my mum, because she's my accountant, because she does the accounting for my dad and her uncle's business, and like occasionally some other people as well. She's like all in it. So she's like, okay, we're doing your tax returns like now. we're gonna do it. I'm like, okay, yep, let's do it.
It's a really weird thing. When I was younger, I definitely thought, oh, why do I need an accountant to just add stuff up? I know how much I've earned. It's really simple. But then when you look at the forms you've got to fill in, you're like, this is going to take me a day to understand. And then next year, I've forgotten about all of what all of this means.
Yeah.
So
I'm
perfectly happy. Yeah.
Try U.S. tax code. Look at those forms. Oh,
I have. I approached my accountant the other day. It was like, could you help me fill in this IRS 20-C form or whatever it was? Because the IRS wants to know about it. And he was like, you're going to have to find someone in the States for that one.
It's, oh man, I don't navigating that is so crazy.
I was going to say one thing about the IRS, and I have not had this courtesy extended in the UK with HMRC, but the last time I phoned the IRS up, even though the person on the end of the phone was like talking to a robot, which is fine because at least they're a human robot.
Yeah.
They were ever so courteous, and they went through the form line by line. They wouldn't answer any questions if you had one, which was the annoying thing. It was like, what is your answer to A? 50? Is that right? I don't know. But at least they went through the form, and they did have some self-guidance through it. So I was really impressed with that.
Right.
And I got through immediately. That was the other thing I was really impressed with. HMRC, 45 minutes plus usually.
Wow.
Oh, damn.
What I was going to say was just to put a cap on the whole accounting section of this podcast. I don't know how much you're going to hit, Curtis. The advice I would give people starting out as any kind of freelancer, or just like you start working for yourself, get an accountant. It always sounds like a luxury, but a good accountant knows, I want to say loopholes, but it's more like they know the system. They know what your earnings are doing, and where you can not cut corners. I keep thinking of everything I say is going to sound like a scam.
How to navigate the system.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. Thank you, Curtis's mum. Yes, no, get yourself a good accountant. They are worth every dollar because that they will give you advice. They will not only do the adding up for you, but they will tell you essentially how to run your business a little bit too.
Yeah.
They're very worthwhile. And sometimes it's almost like the less you earn, the more you need one. That's the cap I've gone.
No, it's
very true.
It's the sort of thing where if you're in a position where you can't pay an accountant, but you have somebody who understands what's going on, you're in a way even paying yourself by just learning about what it is that the person that knows what they're doing, whether it's Curtis's mom or my mom, who also helps me out.
Nice.
Or any of your moms or even your mom, just learn how to do it, because you're paying yourself back by not having the headache and the heartache of not doing it properly and then getting audited or something else. It's definitely one of those things, just like cooking for yourself, which is definitely worth learning how to do ASAP.
Also, like this is kind of relevant to Blender because there's lots of people that want to make money with Blender, like turn it into a job and stuff. But thinking about whether or not you actually want to be self-employed, whether or not you actually need a business like a company, a limited company or whatever, because that's something that comes up a fair bit as well. In my family, like we've always been the route of don't ever make a company unless it's absolutely necessary, with the twist being it's never necessary. Now, of course, like there are really good reasons to have companies. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I wanted to make one at one point, but like my dad, he's like top of his game. He's never made a company out of himself. Like he's always been self-employed, no matter how many people they've hired, like 30, 40, 50, whatever. He's always just done by contracts, and it's always clean. And it's at the end of the day, it's so much easier to manage tax-wise. But of course, there are benefits to having the company as well. If it's limited, if things go wrong, it's much easier to manage. But like everyone's got to make that choice for themselves. It's definitely worth researching all about it, because if you want to turn even Blender or anything into a business, weigh up the pros and cons about it. But for me, I'm going to stay self-employed, because even just from like an anxiety perspective or like a complexity perspective, it's so much easier to manage. It's so like crystal clear. So yeah.
Yes.
I'd agree there.
There are things like small business grants and the like that if you're in a similar in a situation in which that's applicable to you, or things that you can look into, and it's a little bit easier to apply to those if you do have an LLC or some sort of company. But I think I agree with everything else as well.
You do one of the things with a business, of course. As I say, I'm set up as a business. Historically, that's because I went into people's homes, fixed their computers. That's what I did for many years. And like, if a little bit of dust caught fire 3 months later, and the finger was pointed at me, the insurance, business insurance, is really, really important on that type of thing. So I set myself up as a business, and because I was buying hardware, selling hardware, it makes sense because personally, you can't claim back VAT, for instance, little things like that. It's just not eligible to do. But I've ummed and ahed about doing things as myself or business now that I'm primarily doing, not going into people's homes, which is a blessing considering how the world's gone. But I'm still keeping myself as a business because I've asked my accountant things like car. Do I put my car in business or personal? Because in the UK we have mileage allowances and everything along those lines. We have computer equipment, and I've got loads of stuff that's actually owned by a company now. So if I use it personally, I've got to buy it back, and there's all sorts of complex stuff like that. But again, that's why I have my accountant, so I can just go, "Hey, Steve, help."
So for the people watching, like, just to make all that clear, it's like there is no right or wrong answer about it. Like, there's so many pros and cons and comparisons or whatever, so you need to do the research, and you just need to make your mind up for yourself.
If you were working for big clients and your proposal was worth millions of pounds, I mean, I don't know if Kev actually deals with very large numbers, for instance, when you start dealing with contracts and stuff, then being a business could actually be a great sort of protection to have, because if something went wrong with that project, even if it was outside of your control and it cost that company thousands of dollars, thousands of pounds, or even more, they might turn around and try and sue you, at which point they're suing your company and not you personally.
Exactly. That's why you could have you set up in the States, you would set up a LLC at the very basis, because you can go as sole proprietor, but LLC will add that other layer of protection. And then in the digital realm, it's not that big a deal. But if you're dealing with anything physical, that could be if you're selling like health supplements or something, like anything where you're marketing stuff that consumables or just anything, going into people's houses, fixing computer, anything like that, where you could be liable. That having that extra layer of protection, you want that in there.
This is not the sort of thing that you learn in one sitting completely. Like, I'm still learning a lot of things about it. I'm sure all of you are, but do your homework, do your research. We're not financial advisors. We don't play them on TV. And you can't
can
call
definitely be worth it. Like, I'm classed as a sole trader too, but if you're earning quite a lot of money, it can be worth it from a tax point of view to be a limited company instead. Because you can just pay yourself minimum wage and then take the rest as dividends. And even though you have to pay corporation tax, but you're paying like 5% or whatever on the dividends. So if you're earning enough money, it still can work out.
It's really weird. That's why you need an accountant. So, for instance, corporation tax isn't the same for everyone. VAT is not the same for everyone. It depends on what you're selling, how you're selling it, what I don't know what classification of business you are as well. So corporation tax in the I don't know. I'm not a financial person.
Get an accountant.
Get an accountant.
I just know it's different. That's all.
Yeah, it's 15% in the UK, I think.
We have like limited liability, then we have S corp, and we have C corp. So S corp, a lot of people set up an S corporation, right? It gives you like a whole different structure, like the executive level and all sorts of like different things that you don't have as like an LLC, and then LLC gives you stuff you don't have as a sole proprietor or doing business as. So there's a bunch of different structures you can choose from, but basically just have it legal so you can pay tax and you don't get nailed.
Like from my perspective, I guess the entire business is passive income. Like that's what the entire, like, you put something out and then you just it just generates stuff and it comes back your way. Like there's no service, there's no requirement of interaction for the money. Like because I technically don't have to support the things I make out like can from like a moral standpoint, but people aren't paying for the support. I just make something, put it out, and then they buy it. So this is like the perfect business model for like being a sole, self-employed essentially.
Absolutely.
So just like analyze what you want to do with your work and then make a judgment.
You can do simplified taxes as well in the UK, where basically you just report all the money that comes in. You don't really have to go through like this money came in, but these were the expenses for the goods or whatever.
Yeah,
it's kind of just like it's called like cash in till. Basically, it's like this is how much I earned altogether, and you can still deduct some expenses, but obviously, like because like you said, it's all digital. What we do, there isn't really a lot of expenses to be deducted anyway.
Yeah.
So it does make it easier to do taxes like that. The only problem is when I started doing my taxes like that, and you can't switch back.
Right.
If you did your taxes in the simplified way the year before, you have to do it like that every year.
Oh wow.
There is a way to change, but it's only once you earn over like I think 300 grand. Then you have to do it the other way. You have to break down every single.
Interesting.
Like,
there's a VAT threshold as well, where if you earn over, I don't know what it is now, it's about 90,000 or something like that. If you go over 90,000, you automatically become VAT registered, and that can give you a black hole of earnings where it's. I'm making this up, of course, but about 120,000, you start making the same amount you did at 89,999. So you've got to be really careful when you approach thresholds to manage things properly. And I think we've mentioned this. Talk to an accountant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just put talk to an accountant across the screen this entire time. Like,
I think
to an accountant. Star. We're not. We're speaking from a good place, of course. We've all got slightly different views on it from slightly different countries, and that's the biggest thing, of course. Something that's perfectly fine in one country. Maybe a big no-no in another, simply because of how the tax laws are written, and that's probably the same in the States. Each individual state can be different.
States is a quagmire. Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
Well, with Brexit that's just happened, of course, there's now so many different things when you sell something in the EU. So if you've not got a company managing that for you, if you sell a product, so for instance, Gumroad probably handles that, if I'm right in thinking. If you sell something in the States, it puts the appropriate tax on. If you put it in the EU, it sells appropriate tax.
I assume so. I don't know. I haven't.
I think they are, but yeah.
It's one of the things that I had a problem with Patreon, because Patreon automatically add VAT on.
Right.
And the other company that I work for is not VAT registered, so they're collecting tax for HMRC, which is perfectly fine. I mean, I have no problem with them doing that, but there's no way of saying, actually, that's not right. You're charging people VAT when there is no VAT to pay. So the government are getting tax. If it was the other way around, there would be a big hoo-ha about it, and HMRC would be chasing you down, because who knows? But I think at the end of the year, you could put that through, say, hang on a minute, and actually claim it back from HMRC. But it'd have to be worth it to do that, because your accountant's got to go through all these transactions. And you might end up with a £300 bill to cover £200 worth of tax.
Wow.
Which, you end up in this peculiar situation.
That's the stuff that you don't have to deal with if you just work for a company.
Yeah.
Like your earnings may be limited, but you also don't have the headaches of dealing with all that other stuff. So that is like one of the upsides of just going to work every day is, if the numbers work for you, it sucks having to get up and go to work every day. That's like, you're going to do that. You're going to do that in your own business anyway. Yeah. But like, you don't have that flexibility when you're going to work every day. It's like, you're expected to be there from this time to this time. It's like indentured servitude, it feels like. But compared to, working your own stuff where it's like, you work whenever you want. But the nice thing is that you don't have to deal with all this stuff we're talking about at all. Yeah. Like, all you have to do is do your own taxes at the end of the year. That's it.
Yep. Once you've clocked out, you've clocked out.
You've clocked out. You don't
Not
have to
with all companies, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel something important being said.
Yes.
All right.
Do you like this podcast? Do you want to see more episodes of BlenderNest? Do you want to beat the algorithm and not have it tell you what you have to watch when you want to watch it, or when you want to watch it, or whatever, then hit the damn subscribe button. Because I know you're watching it. I'm talking to you, the person watching this for the first time, and to you, person watching this is your second episode. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to hit subscribe.
Do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Make it happen.
That was nice. I made you full screen for that segment, Arturo.
Nice. Do it. Do it.
Wow.
Lovely.
But yes, there are pros and cons. So you weigh those for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there is, especially online, there's a huge push to become an entrepreneur, and the pressure and all these people trying to sell you on, you know, how to become an entrepreneur, how to market, how to, you know, make money online, all this stuff. And you know, when society like falls to a pandemic, it's a great opportunity to do that, because you don't have, like, nobody's hiring. If nobody's hiring, you don't have a job. If you don't, or you got laid off or whatever. So yeah, it's great to have those skills and be able to start your own thing. But when the economy picks up again, you know, you might trade the headache of being an entrepreneur for the stability of having a job. But then again, it's not stable. You know, it was sold to us as stability, but it's really not stability. Like when a pandemic comes around and, you know, people get laid off, entire departments get laid off, and you know, people lose their jobs, and it's not stability. So it's a personal choice.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I said that earlier on in the year. Like, the pandemic obviously like upset the workplace of pretty much everybody. Like loads of people everywhere were like laid off or had reduced hours. Everybody was like having to work from home, and everything was getting upset. Nothing changed for me, to be honest. Like, from my point of view, like, really nothing happened. My earnings went down a little bit because advertiser revenue, things like that were like affected. But other than that, like, my job's more stable than ever, which is weird that, like, now we're in a situation where you can be more stable having a job that isn't reliant on, like, traditional workplaces having to be open, or traditional, like, retail spaces being open, things like that. Like, if you've got a retail business, it's looking pretty shaky at the moment. Like, it has been for a long time, a lot of years. Whereas if you've got an online business, there's never been a better time.
Never.
Yeah. There's pros and cons to both, and a lot of things to consider, but kind of to steer it a bit back into Blender. Like, one of the benefits of working for a group or for a corporation or company is kind of structure of projects, and that might be to your benefit or not, but something to consider. Sometimes it's hard when you're working on your own, or you're doing freelance, or working even with a very small team, to figure out which direction you want to take things. And some people just work better with somebody guiding them and giving you constraints under which to work with. And maybe just as I said earlier about finding an accountant that works best with you and like learning from them, you can take some of the things that you learn from working under somebody and apply those into your own sort of, you know, in the way that you handle your own business and that you work on your own. But I wonder, like, how do you all structure the next sort of projects that you want to work on? Like, Rob, you said you've got 2 videos coming out, or you hinted that there's 1 video coming out, but and what you were addressing wasn't until 2 videos from now. So how do you just decide with my projects, like, oh, I want to take them in this direction, and 2 videos out, I'm going to be releasing this or that or the other? And I guess this applies to everybody as well.
There's no direction to how I create videos. There's nothing at all, to be honest. I jump in to Blender or whatever, and I try ideas out. Then I get frustrated and I go, okay, I'm going to leave that for a while. That's going on the back burner. Try something else out. And then sometimes I'll end up 3 or 4 projects in, and I'm like, I don't like any of these ideas. Maybe I'll go back to the first one again, but I'll restart it. And then you end up in the situation I'm in now, where it's like, okay, I've got a lot of half-done videos, but I haven't released anything for, like, whatever it was, 50 days or 40 days or something.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, I was reading 3D World magazine, because it was something you just said reminded me of that. I was reading 3D World magazine, and I saw this amazing sculpt. I don't remember exactly who did it now or what, but I just remember reading this person during the interview said, you know, my workflow is similar. Like, I'll just work on something and then I'll delete it 5 or 6 times and then just do it again. And I'm like, well, okay, if this sculpture is this striking, and it's this person's 6th or 7th iteration, I shouldn't be kicking myself in the ass for deleting a file and starting over again. Because we all do it, and that's like a byproduct of the social dilemma in the internet age, is that you only see the finished product. But if you're struggling with that right now and you're listening to this, like, just know that we all delete our files several times over, and then just start again.
Yeah, I restart constantly.
Yeah,
like pretty much anything that I make a final finished version of, I'll have probably got an hour in and went, okay, now I'm going to do it for real. Like, I've played around with the ideas, I've done like a proof of concept. Start again now, because I actually know what I'm doing. And it's kind of like, in the same way when I used to paint digitally, I would spend like half an hour or an hour every day just warming up. And it's kind of like that in Blender as well. It's like, it's warming up, and it's like you go back and go, I really shouldn't have done this with the topology or whatever, or I really shouldn't have started where I started. I should have scrapped out like the layout quickly instead of modeling whatever.
You've probably all suffered from this at some point during the editing stage. You're watching back your video, and obviously you're deleting your ums, your ahs, you're throwing stuff at the screens. And then you watch yourself back, and you become that annoying person in the comments who goes, why didn't you just use the X tool? And you're like... And you're already like maybe 2-3 days into your project, and you're like, and you make a decision at that point. Am I just going to redo the video, or am I just going to publish it and go, yes, there are many ways in which you can use the tools in Blender.
Exactly.
I chose to use the one that took 15 steps instead of 2. Thank you.
Yeah. When
you're kind of in that zone, aren't you? When you're modeling or doing something, you don't always do things the same way. I find I'm very contextual with my tool usage. So sometimes I will pick up the knife tool. Other times I'll put loop cuts everywhere. And ultimately, the end topology is relatively the same. But I just decided to go another way about it. At that particular point, my brain was like, oh, I'll use that one.
Discord just crashed. Like, Curtis just showed me a brand new way of doing something that I hadn't seen before, using skin modifier. That was basically what I spent 4 days doing in 4 minutes, and I cried a little bit, but I learned something new.
I mean, for me, basically, I use the same set of nodes every single time. Like, I know the process. Like, I'll be adding this node, the next this node, to get all the side effect. I could simply like do like a node group and use it every single time. But am I gonna? No. I want to do it again every single time.
I'm always building up the same node groups, so it's like, it's annoying.
Oh, I should have.
But I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I do it for like the videos. Like, I haven't even been creating my own art. I haven't been doing this for fun for such a long time now. It's just doing it for my videos, or doing it for my channel, or doing it for freelance. And at some point, I'm gonna like, what? I want to do this for fun, and then I'm just gonna be like pulling out all this stuff and creating libraries of stuff that I reuse. Well, for freelance, I have stuff I reuse, but for videos, it's like I have to, I can't just pull that out and go, oh, I'm just going to use this, because then I get like 90 comments going, you tricked us. I thought you were going to show us how to build that from scratch. And I'm like,
I have that
you have to link it.
Yeah, I have that with lessons. Sometimes if you're teaching someone, you teach them foundational building blocks, and then say, oh, you've also got this other tool that you could use to do relatively the same thing. And you might build up on knowledge like that as you go through the lessons. And you always get someone jumping in straight, nice and early, saying, oh, why didn't you just use this from the very beginning? It's like, because it's a beginner's course, and it's good to know those other tools as well.
Yeah.
So,
I wish I could have a disclaimer on all of my videos just saying, if I do something, I probably did it for a reason. Like,
exactly.
That should just auto reply to like half the comments that I get. Like, if I select a load of stuff manually instead of doing like a check a deselect or whatever, I'll always get a comment about like, why didn't you use check a deselect? Say, because if it's a time lapse, it looks really nice just having things go do every other one. It's just a nice little visual thing in the video, and it took me 5 seconds to like manually select them all, and it looks better. And if I use check a deselect instead of doing it manually, I'll get a load of comments instead saying, how did you select every other one? And then I have to answer all of those comments. So I can't win either way. So it's like, just assume that I know.
It's 99.9% of the time, it's like never coming from people who are creators. Like, it's like, it's like it's so easy. It's so much easier to, hindsight is 2020. It's so much easier to look at somebody's work and go, why didn't you just do that, than to actually create it yourself and put it out there. The second you do that, you'll understand why the creators don't,
100%. It's much easier to backseat drive. I've watched all of your videos, and I sit there and go, "That was I often don't say, oh, why did you do it that way?" I usually go, "Oh, I would have done it a different way. That's a really useful way. I'm going to put that in my arsenal because I know that other way of doing it's going to be useful when I'm doing something similar."
Exactly.
Let me sit because when I did, I think the Looper sculpt or whatever, the kind of dog thing.
Yeah.
I just did it because I wanted to have fun. And actually, one before that as well, the Sergeant Butters. I did this thing that, not many people would do it. They've done it this way, but doing clothes. I literally took vertices and drew out seam lines in 3D space. And everyone was like, well, why don't you just
like that?
Yeah, everyone was just like, why don't you just take the base model and then extrude things out? I was like, well, because I want the seams, because I like having them because you can build off them easy. And little things like that. And with the Looper one, it was like, I can't be bothered to retopologize or decimate or whatever, so I'm just gonna smart UV unwrap. I know it's gonna look terrible up close, but I'm not gonna render up close. And I got people that were like, why don't you just do it with a multi-rares or use the quadraflow or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how close to the border of my patience I run when making these videos. If I took if I took even a single step more than what I've done, that video would never be on YouTube. I would have got bored of it and not done it. So this is as close as we get. This is why the video exists. And when I look at people that write those comments, I look at their work and they they make one thing every month or every few months, and I'm like, see, this is the difference here. I'm making something every week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, it's it's your workflow, right? If they ask why is your workflow wrong? It's it's not wrong. It's just another way to do it.
Sometimes
there are 100 ways to do the same thing.
100 ways.
I wanted to.
Yeah. Start with the cube. I'll start with the cylinder.
Yep.
I mean, you get it, right? Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah. Well, talking of workflows, I'm at the moment making some Wipeout-like ships for a sort of similar game, and the way that the assets are being created, they're all being created as hero assets because we want each individual ship to be unique.
Yeah.
Whereas typically you may have a decal system and just swap out team names and numbers and everything. Every ship is unique, which means they all have to have a unique UV unwrap. So you can't get away with doing a smart UV project. And I swear after the next sort of 2 or 3 months of finishing, I've done these ships, I'll either embrace UV unwrapping fully and go, I'm going to UV unwrap everything. But as you were saying, it's just time.
Yeah.
I had a big backwards and forwards time. Asset creation takes time. It doesn't matter what field it's in. Even if you were doing procedural ships through some sort of code, it still takes time to perfect the procedural code itself, so you actually get something useful out of it at the end. So no matter how you're approaching, it's always going to cause a bottleneck in time. And UV unwrapping's the big thing here. I've got all the ships, they're all done, dusted, and then I'm going in and I UV unwrap. And I'd love to, if you guys know, it would be really useful. When I UV unwrap, occasionally you get a nice island unwrap, so a straight face on the model is actually coming out nice on the UV unwrap. So you pin those vertices, and you go and unwrap some more things, and Blender goes, no, that's not what I use pin verts for.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to put it on like this. And I'm like, no, just stay where you are. God damn it.
I know.
So that's my swearing out of the way, because that's what is really. It's just those UV unwrapping things, and you get there and you just unwrap it again, and it just changes.
Oh yeah.
And I've tried a couple of different tools so far, but they all seem to. I know mathematically UV unwrapping is actually quite complex. That's why Blender can't just do it magically.
Yeah.
I have tried. There are a couple of things you can do, like on the smart UV unwrap. You can either turn the amount all the way up to 90 degrees, and sometimes you get some really nice big block shapes from that, or you can turn it all the way down. Don't go too low, because Blender will crash, especially if you've got a high polygon model. But if you go down really low, it pretty much puts every face as a unique UV unwrap, which is no good for texture painting.
No.
So I can't do that because the models are going straight into Substance Painter, and like if you put a stamp on, suddenly it looks wrong because of the way that it's been unwrapped. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. But I think that's UV unwrapping in a nutshell.
Yeah, I avoid it like the plague.
I do too.
Yes,
I think there's a lot of money to be made if someone can figure out like an AI-based algorithm in a program that can just analyze a load of unwrapped objects or whatever and figure out this is probably a decent unwrap and do it automatically. I would pay a lot of money for software that could do that. It's one of the few things I would subscribe for. I would pay a monthly fee to have some software where I can just drop it in and it gives me a nice, maybe with a random seed or something, or loads of options for like, do you want to respect necklines and ears, or do you not care about that? Like, oh yes, please. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic.